better idea. We recording? All right. All right, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. At this time, will you please silence any cell phone or electronic devices that you may have? Val, will you go ahead and call the roll?
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Villa?
Here. And at this time, the invocation will be led by City Commissioner Penny Curry tonight, and continue standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we come before you this evening and ask you to be with this commission as we try to do good for the city. And we always try to do good in your name, Lord, and be faithful servants. Lord, I also ask that you continue to be with the entire United States, Lord, as we're dealing with this coronavirus. And Lord, just let the doctors and those in the healthcare industry know what to do and give them the knowledge, Lord, and just keep the general public from being so panicked, Lord. Put some calm across them, Lord, as they really need it right now. And Lord, we just thank you for everything that you provide for us and our families. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving to our first presentation on our agenda tonight is a presentation, a proclamation by the mayor of the city of Holly Hill, declaring that April is Holly Hill Arts Festival month. So I'll go ahead and read this. Whereas this is the second annual Holly Hill Arts Festival being held on Saturday, April 18th through the 19th, 2020 at Sunrise Park. And whereas the Holly Hill Arts Festival will host over 80 juried local and regional fine artists and fine crafters at the beautiful Sunrise Park located between Riverside Drive and the intercoastal Halifax River. And whereas the Holly Hill Arts Festival is free to the public with plenty of free parking, and it offers affordable art for the established as well as the beginning collector with music and several food trucks from which to choose from. And whereas the Holly Hill Arts Festival is presented by the City of Holly Hill and Helping Hands Through Arts. And whereas donations will be made again this year to the two Holly Hill schools, Holly Hill K-8 School and United Brethren in Christ, for their arts and music departments. Now therefore, I, Chris Villa, Mayor of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim that April is the Holly Hill Arts Festival month.
All right.
So if you'd like to come forward and take a picture.
Two of us will fall.
I just want to say thank you, everybody. I come see everybody, but then we're not talking. I don't want to. Goose bumps. Yeah, goose bumps. Want to go first? Okay.
One, two, three, and 1, 2, 3. Okay.
All right, this one's for Pat. Okay, ready? Okay.
All right, thank you. This is yours.
It feels weird.
All right, now we'll move down to public comment. So you made it just in time, Jim. This is the audience's opportunity to address the City Commission on anything not on a regular agenda tonight. Yes, ma'am. Come forward, and please just state your name and your address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor Villa and Commissioners. My name is Marta Pascal, and I reside at 440 Pendry Drive in Port Orange. 40 years ago, I lived on Hiawatha in Holly Hill, and my husband at the time, Jim Massfeller, actually was a city commissioner. 20 years ago, more or less, my brother, Mike Pascal, talked to me about pickleball. I thought he was making it up, but apparently he wasn't. By the way, he is a retired Coast Guard rescue swimmer and rescue swim instructor, and currently he's local. He is a pickleball champion and a pickleball instructor, and he does teach locally, and he will be teaching at Pictona. I cannot begin to tell you how proud I am of the city of Holly Hill for having the vision and the foresight to bring Pictona to your city. There is no doubt in my mind that it's going to have a profound positive impact on your city and your residents. After serving as a teacher, principal, and district-level administrator with Volusia County Schools for 37 years, I'm now serving my community as a realtor with Adams Cameron. Thank you for trusting Adams Cameron as your broker. Thank you for trusting me as the listing agent of your 7 properties. Please know that whenever I speak to prospective buyers, especially those interested in the 2 commercial properties, I always tell them about Pictona. Often they know, but sometimes they don't. And I truly believe that's going to have such a profound impact, especially in this area. And that's 627 North Ridgewood. Somebody's going to be really smart and jump on that. And also with the Riverside Drive. I just think they're 2 wonderful properties, and believe me, every time I talk to anybody, I extol the virtues of the city of Holly Hill and Pictona. So, we have closed on 2 of the properties. You probably are aware of that. I'm working diligently on the remaining properties, particularly the 2 commercial. I want to thank staff, particularly the city manager, for information, help, support, giving me his time and his expertise. And I just want you to know that, again, I appreciate the confidence you've placed in Adams Cameron and me, and I will do my absolute best to help you help your city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pascal. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission tonight? Yes, sir. Mr. Legary.
Good evening. Jim Legary, 342 Burley. I'm wondering if anybody knows what's up with Gina's. I don't believe they've been open for the last few days.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
They have?
They were open yesterday?
Open.
Oh, and today.
7:30, 7 to 3.
Yeah, they're only open for dinner,
On the weekend?
Thursday, Friday,
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They're open.
Yeah. No. They're only open. They plan to expand sometime in the future, but right now it's just 3 days a week for dinner.
All right, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comments, and I'll entertain a motion for approval of our minutes.
Motion. Go ahead.
Motion made by Commissioner Johnson, seconded
Second.
by Commissioner Penny. Curry?
Curry.
I got there. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Yeah, with no objection, I would like to move our public hearing of the food trucks above the consent agenda item, since there's something on the consent agenda item that kind of goes along with it.
Makes sense.
Seeing no objection, then we'll go ahead and entertain ordinance 2020-0-3024. Joe? Sorry if I threw you a curveball.
It's okay. An ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, regulating mobile food vehicles, amending Section 114-904 of the City Code to add definitions, update permitting requirements, restrictions, operating requirements, and establish enforcement procedures providing for codification, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. This is being heard for second and final reading this evening.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Walker?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, City Commission. As you know, before you is a proposed change to our mobile food vendor ordinance, and at our last meeting, there were a few changes that the commission requested, and so I was just going to review those changes, let you know that they have been made. One had to do with the Class 1 type vehicle, which is part of the definition section of the ordinance, and it was requested that Class 1 be the only type of mobile kitchen or mobile food vendor that would require a license or a permit. Class 2 and Class 3 wording was added to each of those, specifically saying that a mobile food vehicle permit would not be required. The next item had to do with the number of days that a vehicle could remain on the same property. And so in Section 3K of the ordinance, currently a vehicle is allowed to be on a property for 1 day a week. And under K, it says the same address, site, or overall property is prohibited from hosting mobile food vehicles for more than 3 days in any calendar week. So it's been increased from 1 to 3 days. The next change had to do with item 4H, and that adds a distance restriction with regard to mobile food vendors. A mobile food vendor may not locate on any property that abuts a property with an active restaurant, except that the mobile food vendor may locate closer with the written approval of the restaurant owner. The other change had to do with the fee. Currently, the fee is $5 per day in order to have a permit for a mobile food vendor, and we're going to be bringing a resolution, a part of the fee resolution, it will be changed to $25 per year for a permit. And those are the only changes that I'm aware the commission requested.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Is there any questions for any staff from any commission members? All right. Thank you, Mr. Walker. At this time, we'll open this up to public participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this item tonight? Yes, Mrs. Heller.
Hi, I'm Heidi Heller, 460 Ridgewood Avenue in Holly Hill City. Just a few things, maybe moot, but on page 8, number I, it says mobile food vehicles are not allowed in residential areas or the residential portion of a mixed-use PUD and may not locate any closer than 100 feet from a residentially zoned area. Not to pick on Mr. Danio, but the property next to him, if a food cart was going there, it wouldn't work. It'd need to have permission. But that, if he had another parcel up one from him or north away from you, it is only within about 79 feet of, the property behind it is residential. And that's commercial that faces Route 1. So how does that define? That means everybody on the adjoining road in the residential would wipe out all the possibility of any food cart on Route 1. Is that how to read it or not?
Joe, do you understand the question?
Yeah, I think if you look for a problem, you'll find a problem. Know what I mean?
It's just a detail that, just in case it happens. Everything, this whole thing is a detail that we're trying to iron out.
Mr. Walker, did you hear the question?
I'm going to pull that up.
Can you provide an answer?
Do we know the average depth of a lot on Ridgewood? I think that would what we're getting at.
Could be 75 feet.
Do you know the answer to?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. The average, many of them are about anywhere from 60 to 100 feet. I know there are many that are, the CC1 zoning requires a lot to be 100 feet deep, and many of them do not meet that. So I think that we're probably, the average would probably be somewhere in between 60 and 80 feet. But if I understand the question, it's that that there may be some lots along Ridgewood that are within 100 feet of residential and therefore would not be able to host a mobile food vendor, and that is true. That is true. There is a distance restriction to residential as it stands now.
Mayor,
Actually, save your question for,
Oh, okay.
'cause we're still on her time, so I'd like to just give it back to Mrs. Heller real quick, and then we'll call him back.
that's fine.
Mrs. Heller, if you'd like to continue.
Yes, if I didn't forget what I was going to talk about, so I'll stay that.
Okay, thank you. Before we go there, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission about this item tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation.
Mr. Gary.
Oh, Mr. Legary?
US 1, the east side. They all abut residential on the street behind.
Jim Legary, 342 Burley. Is there provision in here for the mortar buildings that feel like they're being harmed? Is there some kind of provision in this?
For what buildings?
For the restaurants that are paying taxes
Currently here.
and building fees and rent and so forth?
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the commission on this item tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. And Mr. Walker,
That, you know, you got a point that a lot of the properties, especially at the north end of the city, abut residential that have shallower lots than the south end of the city. South end of the city, I think the lots are a little bit deeper. So she's accurate. You know, if there is somebody on the northeast side of the city that wants a food truck, it could be within 100 feet and would be denied. Now, if you don't like that and you want to reduce that to 50 feet, you can do that as part of your motion, if that's the decision you want to make.
Commissioner Curry?
Yeah, Brian, if you will, I just wanted to clarify, even with the property behind a business on the residential streets that are located behind those businesses on Ridgewood Avenue to the north, well, and there may be some to the south, who knows, but they still have the opportunity to contact the business for their permission to go ahead and hold a food truck at their home for a private party, what have you.
That's allowable.
So I really don't think a business,
You're looking at it the wrong way.
Opposite.
what do you mean?
If there's a business that's lot is less than 100 feet deep and there's a house behind it, they can't host a food truck on the commercial property.
Right. So it's the other way around.
If there's a food business,
There's a
there's
business.
just a business?
Business. If Allstate wanted to host a food truck and my depth of my parcel is less than 100 feet, there's houses behind my building, I could not host a food truck because it's within 100 feet of a residential zoning. Correct?
Right.
Without written permission from the resident, or
No.
regardless?
No, regardless, that would be
Yeah,
regardless.
because I thought we
Can you
were
pull
only
up
doing the
8I?
100 feet.
We were thinking north and
Thank you.
south.
Yeah,
We weren't thinking east and west.
That's right.
exactly.
We're thinking,
Yes,
That's
correct.
two-dimensional.
Correct.
Okay.
Which,
It would be, she has a valid point, it would be a restriction for many properties.
And
So-
it's less than 100 feet in that area of the city, just measured.
are there any lots that are smaller than 50 feet that way?
Should not be.
No.
Should be an anomaly if there was one less than 50 feet deep.
Commissioner
can't you
Penny?
just strike that thing? They're not allowed in residential areas or within 100 feet. Strike that within 100 feet and
Is that what
the
8I says? What does 8I exactly say? She's pulling it up right here.
trying to get it on my phone right now, I don't have it.
Yeah, I don't have it either.
It's not 8I, it's,
3I.
What is it?
Oh, page 8.
it says mobile food vehicles are not allowed in residential areas or residential portions of a mixed-use PUD and may not locate any closer than 100 feet from a residentially zoned
Strike
area.
those last 6 words,
Yeah, I was reading the wrong item.
8 words, whatever.
So you can just put a period after PUD, and that's it.
Does that solve it, Mr. Walker?
Yes, it would.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Are there any other questions for staff? All right. At this time, I'll call for a motion.
I will make a motion with the strike of section 3, number I, from the point of the after the PUD.
Just the remainder of that sentence.
Yes, does that make it clear, City Clerk? Okay.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Do we need clarification of the motion for anyone? All right, seeing none, go ahead and open it up to the motion maker for any discussion.
I think we have discussed this enough. I don't have anything.
Does anyone else have any discussion they want to provide?
I'd just like to thank Ms. Heller. Sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, pointing that out.
Yes, thank you.
I'll think of the next one in an hour.
Don't doubt it.
And contact us before the meeting. Is there any, you'd like to say something, Commissioner?
You guys know how I feel, so you know how I'm voting, but I think it might be a wise decision for the commission. I was talking with Joe about the sunsetting issue, or part of it, and it might be prudent for this commission to consider putting a sunset so that we don't intend to have any problems, you don't intend to have any problems. But if we do, we'd have a forced way of kind of bringing it back up. Just an idea.
How long would you want it?
I don't know, whatever's typical, a year,
Year?
put a year down the road and just bring it back. That way we have a reason to kind of see what we,
Would the motion, maker of the motion want to amend her motion for that?
I'll amend my motion to have a review.
Well,
Okay.
There's two ways that works. One is it automatically sunsets in a year,
Right.
or the other is it automatically renews in the year unless the commission withdraws it.
Votes to change.
So you can set it up that, let's just say 30 days prior to 1 year. So we're March 10th, so let's say February 10th, or the first meeting in February of 2021, you'll review this ordinance and make a decision to either continue it or
Modify it.
eliminate it or modify it.
Okay, I will amend my motion that we'll have a review of this ordinance, the first meeting in February of 2021, to either modify, keep, or eliminate the ordinance.
All right. Do we have a second for that amendment?
just thinking about what she said. Because modify is, no decision is a decision.
So to clarify,
We either keep it, we modify it. If we see there's a problem, we can modify it back to 2 days, 1 day, whatever we choose. Or we just eliminate it because it's not working. We found out Danielle was right, and all chaos went on. The community of Holly Hill went crazy with food trucks. So maybe we need to look at it then.
so does anybody want to second her amendment to review this in 1 year?
I have a question.
Yep.
Okay, Joe. Here's my hesitation. Staff tends to get busy sometimes, and I recall way before any of our time, but I think you were around, similar motion to a used car lot that was given a special exception for 1 year to revisit it, and the city commission never revisited it, so it just continued forever. I'm fearful to tie our hands. If we miss a date, then it just goes on forever. You know where I'm going with this thing?
Well, that's only if you set it up that it will automatically renew unless addressed. If you have it set up that it cannot review unless you address it, then even if you forget about it and that date comes and goes, it will expire on that day.
Right, but the motion is to either leave it alone, amend it, or cancel it. If we miss that date certain, which one of those three actions happens?
I don't think you should categorize it. I think
I don't
that
think
you
you
should
should
say
either.
that you
That's
bring it
my
back for
hesitation.
review at the first meeting in February, and that's it.
That's
Make it more
my
generic.
hesitation.
Yeah, and then we'll put a note in our file that'll bring that up.
Well,
I'm sorry, City Clerk.
I
Will amend my motion
I
to.
think the whole thing's silly, because if it's a problem, we're gonna fix it.
Right,
So-
we're gonna
Well,
address
me
it.
too, but bring
just
it
thought
back to us, the first meeting in February for review, period.
Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second that amendment.
Okay.
Happy with that?
I am, I read contracts before I sign them.
I just want to make you happy, that's all.
Is there any discussion needed on the amendment of the motion? Daniel? All right.
You better not say.
All those in favor to the approval of the amendment of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
We have dissenting vote of Commissioner Danio. Now, any other discussion on the main motion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Votes 4-1, with Danio being the no. All right. Now we can move to the consent agenda. Items 1 through 3. The action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless a city commissioner removes an item from the consent agenda, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any item on the consent agenda? Mrs. Heller? Okay, you could just come and speak.
Number 3, my name is Heidi Heller of 460
Thank
Ridgewood Avenue. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak a little bit about some details. Number 3 is about the rules and regulations for the city parks. Unfortunately, Sunrise South used to have an anchorage, and since the storm from 2 years ago, there hasn't been an anchorage out there, and there's no sign for anchorages. There used to be about 20 boats that would be there for the whole season, the winter season for the boaters. I wish that sign was back that allows an anchorage.
We don't want them there.
But okay.
They wreck into our docks during hurricanes.
They do what?
They smash our docks up during hurricanes.
Shame on them. Okay, cool. So one question would be then, it says no use of city electric, portable generators or amplified music. The pavilion is actually set up for electric, plus overhead lighting. And also the meter that's on the south entry also has an outlet, and neither of those are locked, so those are going to be all locked up. Or if you rent the pavilion, can you get a special permit to have the electric, which is not included?
The breakers are shut off.
Yes to both. Those
Not
outlets will
today,
be-
they weren't.
Those outlets will be
Off.
secured so that they can't be used, and then if somebody wants to rent a pavilion, they'll need special permission to use the electric. Right now, there's no entitlement to electric when you rent a pavilion.
Can we put no use of city electric except with special use permit
No, that's implied.
implied? Okay.
Same thing if somebody wants to have a bounce house or something, that they'd have to get a special event permit to do that.
Okay, so another one would be no overnight parking of any vehicles in any of the city parking lots. However, boaters with a vehicle connected to a boat trailer. A lot of people kayak, and there's no trailers with a kayak, so will they still be allowed to park and overnight there without a trailer?
On the rare occasion that somebody is out in a kayak in the dark in the intercoastal,
Well, moonlight is nice.
police officers will take that into consideration, but I'm not going to be specific on every item if they have a kayak or a dinghy or, it's designed for boats and boat trailers. If somebody pulls in there with a van and it's got a kayak rack on the top, if they're out on the water, there probably won't be a problem, but if they're in the vehicle, they'll be asked to leave.
Okay, sure. So we're good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs.
Thank
Heller.
you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the consent agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Penny and seconded by Commissioner Curry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Now moving on to communications. Mr. Forte.
Just in your packet, there's the annual traffic signal maintenance and compensation agreement, just making you aware that that's been signed, and that's our agreement with the county and the DOT for traffic signal maintenance. And I just wanted to bring up, I'm glad to see that Marta came and had some comments, and she's been working hard on trying to sell some of the city property. And we had a conversation today, and one of the things that I wanted to talk to the commission about is originally when we tried to sell specifically the two properties, the one on Ridgewood Avenue and the one on Riverside Drive, we originally put that out as bids and proposals for certain development, and we didn't get any responses on that. So we decided to then go out and just sell the property straightforward. So right now, if somebody were to come in and buy the property in the 600 block of Ridgewood, they would buy it and they would be able to develop it with whatever is within the current zoning of the CC1 and the overlay district. That also applies to the property on Riverside Drive that's directly across the street from the Marina Grand, although a much smaller piece of property. If it were to be privately purchased, someone could buy it and put on that property whatever is contained within the CC1 zoning right now. There are some uses that you may not want to see on Riverside Drive, and I sent you all an email with a suggestion of some restricted uses, and I don't know if this is about a week or two ago, and I don't know if that's something that you want to consider, but one of the things you can do is you can put a restrictive covenant on that property to not allow certain uses to be built on there, even though they're allowed in the zoning district. You can put a restrictive covenant on that property as the owner, and that stays with the property in perpetuity. That would limit the number of people interested in the property, but we had at least one person interested in bringing a motorcycle repair shop there. And when I looked at their current business, it's an extremely nice business. It's very clean. It's located in Ormond Beach in one of their business centers up there off of US 1. It's very clean. There's only 2 employees, a husband and a wife. They work on a limited number of motorcycles that are contained within the building, that if they went there, it probably wouldn't be objectionable. However, if they sold it and someone else came in and they decided to run a motorcycle repair shop, it could be something other than that quality of repair. So I throw that out to you just for you to make a decision if you want to restrict the uses, especially on Riverside Drive. I'm not so sure you'd want to restrict the uses on US 1 because it's a competitive market, and it is US 1, and your zoning allows for that. But do you want to restrict the use on the Riverside Drive property directly across from the Marina Grand, where you've got a lot of opinions about what's been built or proposed on Riverside? So I throw that out for you for some open discussion.
Well, and also I'll point out too that it's right next to a residential property abutting it.
It's next to the mobile home park on one side and
right.
another commercial slash.
Right. But I'm saying because that makes it different than, for instance, US 1 would be. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested in looking at that. I think that should be an item that comes back. I don't think we should make a decision tonight, but put it into a future agenda. And
Well, I'd want to do it as soon as the next meeting because it limits or restricts Marta's ability on how she and who she markets this to.
Oh, I see.
You know, because right now it's got a very broad zoning use that if we decide to change or put a restriction on.
Does it only take one reading to do that?
No, it's actually going to take more. Brian's not here. I believe it's got to go to the Board of Planning and Appeals.
Oh, really?
It may. I'm not 100% sure. But because we understand that as the government, you cannot restrict the use of a property in any zoning district as long as it's within that zoning district. As the owner of the property, you can put a restrictive covenant on it.
Right.
And that's the difference.
Great. Yeah, Vice Mayor?
My question, Joe, is can we just market it, see who's interested in it, and then, because we're the owner, then apply for a PUD agreement with ourselves before we sell it to them?
Unfortunately, it's too small of a piece of property for a PUD. And I've talked to Brian about that, and we may be coming forward in the future with changing the size of a parcel that.
I mean, I think that just I think that's a wonderful solution if
If
we
you
could
can't-
use it. If we could change our rules for PUD, we could do it, because that way, whoever buys it, what they tell us it's going to be, we're assured it's going to be, and it's going to be that forever for whoever buys it in the future, until they change it. So,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
In a perfect world.
Right.
ideally.
But that's probably the same process, right? Got to go to the Board of Planning Appeals, then come
Well,
back
in,
to us.
in that particular process, you're going to get somebody that would put a deposit on the property and open up a due diligence period of probably 4 to 6 months as they go through a PUD negotiation that then has to go to the Board of Planning and Appeals and then come to the commission for 2 readings. So it would probably take 6 months. And then so that would tie the property up for 6 months. And then if we can't come to an agreement on the PUD, they would then have the opportunity to withdraw their deposit and move on.
So then would that be a longer process than if we just said, hey, we don't want X, Y, Z, but then someone else doesn't have that, they have ABC and it's allowed, then
It
they
would
go
be a
ahead and
little- It would be a little
purchase.
bit of a longer process because you'd be negotiating the terms and conditions of the PUD as opposed to just putting the limitations on there. But, like I said, we did have somebody that was interested in a certain type of business, and under a PUD scenario, you would be able to restrict that use to, for example, those repairs would have to be contained within the building as opposed to overflowing outside the building, and you'd only allow so many vehicles outside, so it's a good idea. I just have to see,
What the process is.
right now, that parcel is too small for a PUD. We would have to amend the zoning ordinance to allow for a PUD on smaller parcels and then go through that process, which is going to take several months because it's got to go to Board of Planning and Appeals and then come back to the commission. Then you would potentially get a buyer that would, as I said, put a contract on the property and then have a due diligence period to then negotiate the PUD.
Yeah, Vice Mayor will stay.
Here's my concern. It sounds wonderful to limit what you want there. These parcels have been for sale for no less than 5 years, although maybe not actively marketed with an active agent until recently. But we haven't had hardly any interest with no rules or no restrictions on it. So for us to arbitrarily put a filter and restrict our real estate agent's ability to market this to the masses, I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
So you're saying just decide whenever they come to us and I don't think that they have to let us know, right? They don't have to let us know what they're building, right?
No,
They
somebody
can
don't
just
have to
say we
sell.
want to buy.
But we don't have to sell it to them either, as the seller. As the
Right.
government, we do, but as a seller, we don't. And
Right.
so I would,
But nobody's going to necessarily disclose what they're going to use it for. If we have somebody that comes in and says, I'm going to offer you the full price, and I say, well, what are you going to put there? And they say,
They don't have to
none
tell
of your
you.
business. I'm
Right.
holding it as an investment.
But we don't have an obligation to sell to them, correct? Being the
I'd
owner.
have to ask Marta, if somebody offers a full price, are we obligated to sell, or do we have the right to not?
I think you could say no, and I think it'd be wise to actively pursue our ability to amend smaller lots for PUDs in the meantime. I think that's just a powerful tool whenever it comes to rezoning a property for us. It puts peace
Some
of mind
control.
of what's actually gonna be there,
Right,
whether for this parcel or one in the future.
right. Commissioner Curry?
Joe, I feel as though if we need to pursue the PUD avenue, but also if we're not going to be able to accomplish that with this particular property, we may want to put some restrictions on it because I do believe that because of the MG and because of some of our other establishments along Beach Street or Riverside Drive, that
Well, this
we're going to need to do that.
Yeah, this parcel is directly across from their main entrance.
Right.
And one of the options that, we've told the folks at the Marina Grande, if you don't want to see something undesirable there, buy it.
What's the value? What are we listening for?
What do we have that listed at, Marta?
98,000 for the record.
500 units over there, divided by 98,000?
It's not that much,
No.
Well, that's the route I would prefer to go.
What's that?
To
Just like I said,
To limit-
to explore the PUD
But see, here's the problem.
And,
It's,
and even if that's used for future,
okay. Well, we're going to do that.
huh?
We're going to do that.
Okay, and to limit, some, not a lot, just,
Well-
we need to be a little more particular about what goes in down there.
If you'll go back and look at the email that I sent you about a week or two ago, it's got a number of uses that you may want to consider, and you can let me know what you think you would support or not support.
Okay.
And then send it to the Board of Planning Appeals.
You'd let me know, and then Brian and I will work something up and bring it to the Board of Planning Appeals for a recommendation.
Didn't we have a roofing place in that same building?
No, that's on the
No.
corner.
Yeah, it's on the corner.
This is a
But this-
vacant piece of land.
Oh, it's a vacant house. But
That's
did-
where that
but we had
flamingo-
we had kind of a problem with that. Yeah, we got to be,
Remember that Flamingo Florist?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's in that area.
I kind of agree with Commissioner Curry. You know, I don't want to make the young lady's job any harder, but I'm thinking we should be careful what we put there too.
What say you, Commissioner Johnson?
I kind of like the Jackman motorcycle place.
And how'd you know it was Jackman?
Huh?
Did I tell you it was Jackman?
But they're in the same building in Newkirk Engineering
That's right.
right now, and,
It's a clean business.
nice, clean business and all, but how do you know? I think they would have a good future there, but you don't know it for sure. It depends on whether you want to know it for sure, or whether you want to speculate and take a chance on selling it, or whether you want to keep it for another 5 years. So we have to make a decision one way or the other to do that. Do we want to keep it for another 5 years with no tax value of it? Or do we want to take a chance and let somebody do it and we think it's going to do the right thing?
Well, we're not selling it. We're just,
It sounds like we're not going to sell it if it's been sitting there for 5 years.
Well,
with
no,
no restriction.
the problem I have is this may be a classy business, but maybe they want to retire in 5 or 10 years, and now they are going to sell it. Then we have no control. That's the business that wants to go in there may very well be just fine, classy, everything's inside, no problems. But I have to think down the road of what may happen and protect that. So I don't mean to make your job any harder either.
So,
I just don't want the commission to get any negative feedback of, you had the opportunity to control this gateway area of the city, and you didn't do something to limit.
I think it would be a mistake if we didn't.
well, so what I'm hearing is, look, I think that we can go ahead and send this to the Board of Planning Appeals, let them go through it with a fine-tooth comb, give us their recommendations. We
idea.
bring them here, and then we can decide, and we can go Vice Mayor Penny's route, which I see a lot of benefits to, or Commissioner Curry's route. So we can decide that, and if we don't agree with their uses, we can certainly change those, but I don't mind doing that. Is there any objection to that? All right, so we'll go ahead and
I'm going to go ahead and then talk to Marta about potentially pulling that from the sale list until it goes through that process.
I wouldn't mind keeping it up unless we have an obligation to sell if we have an offer.
I'd hate to get an offer in and we tell somebody.
Waste their time.
But what if we get a great offer that we're like, there it is? We may want to just entertain it. So you can have that conversation and then have a conversation individually.
she's the professional when it comes to that. She would be the one to talk to.
I'm going to talk to her.
No, I'm
Yeah,
just
she's
saying.
the professional.
I would ask her.
I know someone that might buy it. Based on the stock market results this week, I know someone that might buy it for cash.
Uh-oh. All right, so you have your
Yep.
direction there.
Gotcha. Good thoughts.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Forte?
We applied for a COPS grant. Originally, we were going to put in for 3 officers at 75%, and then at the end of 3 years, we would have to absorb the full cost of those officers. Well, as we dove into the details of how that actually works, that 75% is a maximum over a 3-year period. So when we calculated it out, it actually, for us, when you take the salary, benefits, et cetera, it comes out to about 59% of a match, and we would have to cover the other 41%. So it's a little bit more rich than we thought. So I asked the chief and the deputy chief to put in for 2 positions rather than 3. And then we will fund that in a, what did we say, 2030 and 2030. You can spread how you do the match, and you could weight it at the end. So you can do a lesser percentage in the beginning and a higher percentage toward the end, which is what we put in for. So I just wanted to make you aware that we put in for 2 officers. This will come back to you should we be approved for final approval from the commission. And the purpose of these officers is for primarily for traffic enforcement, speeding, et cetera. So they don't just blend into the regular shift. They have to be used specifically for traffic enforcement. So if we get awarded, we'll have 2 additional officers that'll be out there on a shift doing primarily traffic enforcement that the regular officers won't be handling. They'll be doing the other details. So I just wanted to make you aware of that as we put that application out.
Perfect.
Right?
All right. Thank you, sir. Val, do you have anything for us? Scott? Just a quick update. Mr. Forte and I attended the elected officials roundtable yesterday, and really the talk was COVID-19 or coronavirus, and just a so-called update. But now we have 2 cases here in Volusia County. Just reminding everybody to make sure to wash your hands. I also was on a phone call today with Jared Moskowitz, the state director for the state emergency operations, and they spoke about, were any of you on that phone call, the conference call? No. They spoke about the fact that it's contagious within 6 feet. So if people are sneezing, make sure to get away from them. But they're encouraging anyone to have, if they have any symptoms whatsoever, to make sure to protect yourself, cough into your elbow, be seen right away, and please don't go out of your way to try to get anyone else sick. When I spoke with Jared Moskowitz, someone brought up the question to me that what if we have a lot of people in our community that are paycheck to paycheck, and say you're a waitress somewhere and you really got to pay your rent and you're feeling kind of sick and you're not sure. What are you going to do? I mean, what is it? Is it a cold? Is it coronavirus? Should I stay in and go ahead and miss my late payment? And I think that's going to be a big question for a lot of people here in the state of Florida, and haven't really heard anybody talk about it, if there's any relief funds. So I asked Jared Moskowitz about it, and he said, you're going to have to talk to the county about that. The funds would have to come through the county part of it, and and if you can't find an answer there, then we'll give you a better answer. So I don't know, Joe, if you have any insight into that, if there's going to be any.
I don't have any details other than I know the president is working on a stimulus package that may address that.
But those are for tax breaks,
Yeah,
and I think
payroll
these
tax.
people,
It doesn't help you if you're not working.
right? Well, yeah, these people don't care.
It may help you when you get back to work that you fill the gap. The human resource managers of the cities and the counties will be on a conference call on Thursday to discuss a number of issues, including that, because you do have employees that are also employees of the city that are also living paycheck to paycheck that may or may not have sick leave on the books.
Right.
And we don't want an employee coming to work if they're exhibiting flu-like symptoms. You saw the email I sent out today. So, I would strongly encourage any employee that's not feeling well to stay home, and certainly if they have a fever, I would order them to stay home. But that runs into a problem of, well, how do I know they have a fever unless, I do have one of those non-invasive thermometers that we can do. But that does become a problem where an employee doesn't want to take the time off and can potentially infect the city or infect residents. So we've put in place a couple of voluntary measures. I've asked Antoine to go ahead and start to solicit bids that in the unlikely scenario that there is an infection in one of our buildings, that we would bring in a third party to do a decontamination, because that'll shut us down for a couple of days, several days, while we decontaminate a building. It doesn't have to be this building, it could be any one of our facilities. So we're trying to get that in place now, and hopefully we won't ever have to use it. So we're looking at your very question from a city perspective. I don't know how the average person in the general public is going to handle that same scenario.
Right.
Most of them are gonna go to work and infect their coworkers.
Yep.
Very
Yeah.
possible.
I agree. When you talk, could you give me information, or the commission
When I get a
information on
solution
you-
out of that, I'll shoot an email out
Yeah.
citywide.
There may be some type of state stimulus that comes down. I don't think it would be federal, maybe through FEMA, but it's tough enough getting money out of them.
We did generate
Yeah.
a code, because the governor did institute a state of emergency. So that opens the door up where we do have now a line item code that if we start spending time and money on COVID-19, and it does become a federal reimbursement program, we'll have procedures in place to go ahead and recoup some funds if that's the case.
Great, thank you. And I wanted to also applaud your email today to the department heads of the protocols that you put in place for this. I applaud your leadership on that, being quick to that. And I think the preventive measures you put in place are great. I know you've all got the same email as well.
Yes.
We all feel the same. So with that, we will go to Commissioner Johnson for commission comment.
I don't have a lot tonight, but I was gonna kind of yield a little bit of my time to Jim Cameron to see what the Daytona Beach Regional Chamber of Commerce had to say about this con virus is so bad, which they've been doing a lot of research on it as well, but Jim had to leave. So the main thing is a lot of people are misinformed about it. They're so afraid of it. The flu is just about as bad or worse. Most people that get it, they say recover real quick from it. It's not like a life or death thing mostly, unless there's something wrong with you to begin with, you know. But
Just for people over 70.
flu can kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
People over 70.
And I try to be careful, and also carry a thing that you can carry in your pocket. It's a little, just a little hand sanitizer
Sanitizer.
thing. You pull it off, you spray your hands. If you think
You're gonna get mugged for that when you
if
leave
you
here.
think you got it, just you gotta make sure you don't shoot yourself in the eye with it. Or anything. That's the main thing. The city is moving ahead, doing a lot of things, a lot of good things coming up. And this art festival, I think, is gonna be one of the greatest things that's coming up next month. We got in the middle of the summer our good pickleball that's really a real thing, not a joke. It really is. We're gonna have pickleball coming up. And we got the boat dock going, and it's like, Holly Hill is just moving forward real fast, and I really like it. And I yield to the next.
All right. And one thing before we move on, I forgot to mention is the League of Women Voters representative here tonight. I was reminded that there is, I texted you all that there's a fashion show going on, but unfortunately it is during our Easter service here at City Hall. So I had to decline, being that I have to be here, so I didn't know if anyone else wanted to jump in from the city of Holly Hill. They asked if there'd be another representative there.
We all want to be there.
Yeah, we all, yeah. So, yeah.
Much as
we're so sorry. We would,
Don't want to walk the runway.
yeah, I would have loved it, but, you know, we got to be here for our event. Yeah, there we go. Maybe next year. So, thank you, though. Thank you for asking. With that, we'll continue on to Vice Mayor Penny.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Penny.
Penny.
we skipped the last thing on the agenda, the TPO appointment.
Oh, yeah, that's under mayor's comments.
That's under the mayor's comments.
We could just go through
Okay.
it and
You'll do it at the end?
Yeah, I'll do it at the end because I have another thing for.
Okay. Joe, the palm tree that got whacked on the north end of town, you got insurance coverage on that?
Driver of the vehicle has Geico insurance. no plug for Geico there. So we are, the way this works is we have to contact their insurance provider to file the claim.
Right.
So we're in the process of doing that.
Okay.
We must have bought palm trees with magnets in them because they seem to attract a lot of vehicles.
I know.
I think this is like the 5th or 6th
Yeah.
tree that we've got to replace, and it just seems like it's happening in Holly Hill more than anywhere else. I don't know what it is.
They like our palm tree.
Okay.
Don't get hollow ones next time.
There's a lot of gap between the trees. I don't know why they keep
Go between them.
go between them.
I know you guys have all received emails from the Volusia League of Cities requesting you to nominate department heads or employees or citizens for the awards ceremony, which will be in May. And the deadline is this Friday. As of today, countywide, we have 7 nominations for all of the slots. So we've extended the deadline to the 20th, so nominate somebody.
I was planning on doing that this week.
So the deadline is next Friday. It won't be pushed past next Friday, but please do that. Might as well get some recognition for some of our hardworking employees and citizens.
I got to tell you,
Don't tell them.
I disagree with that decision, and here's why. Last year, I nominated an employee of the city of Holly Hill.
Yeah.
And I found out that there were no other nominations, and then they extended the nominations, and my employee didn't get it. So I think if there's a deadline, you should stick to the deadline, and if people don't nominate, too bad, so sad.
Well-
So I would encourage the League of Cities, the Volusia League of Cities, to stick to their deadlines, and
Do you know anyone there, John?
No.
Could
Yeah, do
relay
you
that
happen
message?
to?
I don't know anyone there. I don't know anyone on the selection committee either.
Yeah, I'm sure.
This year. Came up with a little morsel that we need to do a little more research on, but I think it's pretty cool. Went to the school advisory board meeting last week and found out about a program that Advent Health has for our school. And 10 schools like our school in Volusia County, which are Title I low-income schools. And a lot of parents may not have health insurance or may not take their child to the pediatrician because of the costs. So we all joked about Doctor on Demand. Advent Health has a program for the kids at our school. It's $49 for Doctor on Demand. Sounds a little high, maybe. But if your child goes to the clinic at the Holly Hill School and they present sore throat or chicken pox or whatever kids get, runny noses, the school nurse will give them a 6-digit code. They can then log on to Doctor on Demand and put in that 6-digit code, and their visit to Doctor on Demand is free. It's free to the kids that go to our school. It's been enforced for 1.5 years. No one has ever used it. So I've got some flyers here, and that's the 30,000-foot view of it. But I'd like to see if I can give these to Mr. Forte, and if he can contact the school, get the fine details. Maybe we could put in the water bill or something. Every kid that goes to that school is a Holly Hill resident. And
do they send any of these flyers home with the kids?
they do, but they,
Let's face it.
did your kids bring the stuff home?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, who reads the water bill?
well, maybe we put it on a sign out there. But it doesn't have the thing in there about it's free if you go to the clinic, though. That's the problem. That's what we got to get the details from the principal.
Oh, the flyer doesn't say that?
No, it just says you can do Doctor on Demand for $49. But the principal told me that if they go to our school clinic, they get the PIN number and it's free.
And that's because we're Title I?
That's because we're a Title I school and Advent Health has offered it to 10 schools in the district. So I think it's pretty cool. The school, you don't want your kid to go to school sick, but
And it's just for the kids' visit?
just
not
for the kids, not for the
parents.
parents, just for the kids that go to school. Anyhow,
Great.
that's all I know. That's all I got for you. Thank you.
But that's a lot, though. That's good.
Commissioner Curry?
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to say thank you, Marty. I appreciate you coming and going through all that. I can't remember a time since I've been on here, since 2012, that in the past, not while you were here, so don't give me the look, that a realtor that was working for us actually came and explained everything to us. So I appreciate that. And also, I want to let the general public know that I always appreciate your comments and involvement. And any feedback, as you can see, helps us all. And we encourage it. Mr. Forte, appreciate your email as well today. I thought you were very informative, but not panic-like with the employees. I felt as though you sent a message of these are the things that need to be worked on, and it was very professional and businesslike, no panic to it. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. 12 hurricanes, 2 tornadoes, 9/11, Y2K.
I think stuff is
around.
going worse than in a hurricane. I don't know. Along those same lines, I would like us to have some discussion here in the near future. It could be a workshop we set up quickly about our employees. We need to take care of our employees. So we need to figure out something that if our employees do get sick, we don't want them here getting other employees sick, but we need to provide for them. That's what needs to be done. That's why they come to work, because most people live paycheck to paycheck. And if our employees are going to miss a day, whether they have time or not, a large majority of them probably don't, because they use their vacation time to be with their families, and that is wonderful, because that's what I did when I was working. But I really think it's our responsibility to step back, take a look, and see what can be done to try to set something aside to take care of our employees if this begins to get really bad on this side of the county. So if we can agree, not agree, set up a workshop. I mean, if you guys could give me some kind of feedback, I'm not going to settle for crickets up here.
Mr. Forte, is there anything that we could do for them? I think we could.
Right
kind of
now,
find
there's
out
nothing
now.
in policy. I mean, I'd hate to state the obvious that if somebody has been diagnosed and confirmed with the COVID-19 virus, that we would force them to stay out of the building, and if they don't have time on the books, there'd be consideration of compensating them. How about we just wait and see what happens on my Thursday conference call, and maybe some ideas will come out of
Okay.
that I'll speak with you about as soon as possible, and if it looks like there's something that we need to put in place, we don't want that in the city. You know, I can tell you, I went to Tampa 3 weeks ago, and of the number of people that were in Tampa, thank God my wife and I didn't get it, but 12 of us there got the flu, including my 3 infant grandchildren and my son and daughter. And it went quickly. In a matter of 3 days, 12 people fell out with the flu. So it does go around, and we don't want to invite that into our buildings and run the risk of, I worked in the fire department many years ago when the flu went through the department. We actually had to ask Gorman Beach to staff the station for us because the shift was empty. That's how bad it got. So we need to be cognizant of that and maybe think about a plan that if we have to send people home and they can't afford it, we do something to compensate for that.
And again, we can wait until after your call on Thursday.
Right,
If we
we'll
need, if we need to put together a workshop, maybe you can call for that.
Maybe
Whatever
we do a
needs
sick
to
leave
happen.
bank solely for this purpose. Who knows?
Can you borrow sick leave, like, for the future?
Not according to your policies.
No, but if you quit, you charged it back, something like that.
There's nothing really in the policy
There's
right
nothing in
now.
policy.
Okay,
It's not a
well,
bad idea, though.
I've got that off
Vice
my
Mayor.
chest now, and hopefully we'll be in
See
the
what
right
happens
direction.
Thursday.
I wanted to find out if contact was made by either the mayor or the city manager with the county manager as regards to LPGA.
I spoke to the county manager yesterday at the elected officials roundtable and just briefly said to him, some of my commissioners are interested in 4-laning LPGA, and I was talking between him and the chairman, And I said they're looking for the county's position and whether the county would offer support. So the response I got back was what I expected. It's something that would be funded through the TPO and would need to have TPO support. But he also said he would consult with his traffic engineer, a fellow named Tad, and get his opinion and thoughts on it as well. So I will fire off, unless directed otherwise, I'll fire off a follow-up email to the county manager and copy Tad, and just do a quick summary of what are your thoughts on four-laning, and would the county support us in efforts to move forward for identifying funding?
And then you'll just shoot us the response.
And I'll give you the response back.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing I wanted to find out, and Chief will probably be able to answer this. The FDOT is running a zero tolerance campaign right now for bicycles and pedestrians, and you see signs in many areas in Daytona. I haven't seen them in our city. Are we not participating in that campaign?
Well, I don't know is that part of their campaign on the pedestrian bicycle safety? Because we're running the aggressive driving and speeding.
Well, it's a separate campaign.
Crosswalks, I think, jaywalking.
It's jaywalking, yes, thank you.
That may be their campaign that they're running right now. That might be part of their cycle that they're doing.
It's through FDOT.
There's different grants.
Okay.
Probably the grants that they're working.
Okay, I got you. And Mayor, that's all I have, thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Daniel?
The only thing I was going to say was when Commissioner Johnson was talking about that was a while ago because Commissioner Penny started rambling, about the way the city was looking. I just had a great weekend with my son in town. He's getting married, and they had the bridal shower for my future daughter-in-law, and I got to spend some time with my son's future father-in-law and my wife's father. Took him to Sunrise Saturday, took him to the boat launch, took him to the park, took him across the street, Pictona. They were highly impressed, and I just had a good feeling about it, and I thought, wow, this is cool, So I just want to kind of share that because I thought, he said, we don't have parks like this, from South Carolina and stuff, but, so I just thought, we're doing good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, and now we'll get back to the appointment of the River to Sea Transportation Planning Organization representative.
I just have one other comment.
Yeah.
I'm almost sure, I've heard a lot about the employees, if they get compensated at all, but I'm almost sure that the federal government now has a program set up for that anybody has to take off, if it is coronavirus, they'll be totally reimbursed, and any medical expense is totally free.
So far, they're working on a special tax cut for them.
I don't think it's just a tax. I think the federal government's setting up a fund for it now.
Well, that hasn't came across yet. So
I think it's something they're working on.
And I think it'll come pretty quick, too. Because
yeah,
they're working on
well, hopefully so.
Hopefully I'll get it on Thursday and know what we're talking about.
All right, so the River to Sea Transportation Planning Organization, I know that you volunteered for the position, so I think we just need a motion and a second for
Mayor, while we're doing that,
yeah.
I was kind of volunteered or voluntold or whatever you want to put it in the very beginning about this water. Yeah.
We'll take that up next. All
Okay.
right.
Yep.
All right. So is there anybody who else wants it? I know that you just resigned, so you're a no.
I'm a no.
No. So then is there a motion to appoint Commissioner Johnson?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to Commissioner Johnson's appointment tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The other thing was, at the last meeting, I think his name was Ned,
Yeah.
that came. He mentioned that he really wanted an alternate for his board. Is that the bicycle
Yes.
board? We should probably reach out to Gillis Blaze and see if he'll.
Well,
Why don't we find someone that's active?
I was going to say,
That'd
can
be
I
fine.
just give you a little history on that
Please.
before you make that decision?
Yeah.
Gillis Blaze is currently on the CAC, which is the Citizens, yeah.
right.
And he was on both at the same time.
Right.
I requested, I spoke with the city manager, then I requested a change.
Okay.
Because somebody that was a little more active, I felt would be better.
Okay. Well, then, we
Maybe
should,
someone that walks the park every morning.
yeah, right?
Well, it's
Well, we
bicycle
could make the
pedestrian, so
nomination
that's sort of what
tonight.
it deals with.
If she was into it.
Let's,
What we'll do is we'll bring
And
it
it's a-
back. We'll bring it back next commission
What's an
meeting. Can you-
alternate position also?
Right. Do we need an alternate for the TPO?
Yeah.
We have to have it.
Yes.
Okay.
They request an alternate.
All right. So then, who would like to be the alternate for the TPO board? We can't just toss it around, huh? It has to be a set person.
I have to, because in the absence of the regular member and you show up, you have to have voting privileges, and if you're not
Oh, okay.
listed,
Okay.
then you don't have the right to vote.
Then I'll do it if no one else, unless
When
you were
does
doing it.
that meet?
in the morning.
The
It's
fourth
like 9 a.m.
Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. And it usually runs 10:30-ish.
Hour and a half, 2 hours.
Tell you what, if somebody can help me with this water, they have it at Friday what is it, 4 times a year?
Yeah,
We're
every
4
quarter.
times a year. I think you're once or twice a year as the policymaker.
Yeah.
I
think
can't get
once
there
a year.
Fridays at 11 o'clock.
Once or twice a year.
So do you not want to do it
Policy
anymore?
Well, they did, like this Friday, it's Bike Week Friday. That's not going to happen.
Oh, it's this Friday.
Yeah, it seems like they,
Is there an alternate for that board? Do you know about?
Not for that position, I don't think so, no.
Okay.
They meet once a year, and half the time,
Right.
nobody shows up.
Right. So are you? Do you want to resign that appointment?
yeah, I just don't like, a couple times I've emailed her, I'm not able to attend, I'm sorry, it's like,
Would anybody else like to volunteer for that board?
Two?
It may just be one.
Yeah, it may just. Be, I was on it, and I don't even think we've met. I think we've met one
I was
time.
just appointed to the Conklin Center for the Blind Board
Oh.
5 days ago.
Whatever.
So no.
I'll
It's
volunteer.
like Commissioner Curry.
Yeah.
They
Thank
did, but
you.
they're still a board of directors
Wait
and an
a
active
minute.
corporation.
All right, so let's go ahead and do the alternate first for the River to Sea TPO first, and I'll be the alternate for that if someone wants to nominate me for that.
Second.
All right.
that was quick.
Anybody in the audience like to speak to my nomination? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. And now,
Is that
Wait a
motion-
minute. I
that-
thought
So-
you were getting off the board so you could be alternate.
Well.
Oh, that's
I mean,
right.
at 9 o'clock, I don't,
Oh, well.
You don't need
find
off
out
the
more
board.
about it, but
oh well. So what do we need to do to reappoint?
We need to appoint someone to the Volusia Water Alliance.
And then he just needs to resign later?
Bamboozled.
He can resign verbally tonight, and you can reappoint tonight, and we'll send a letter off tomorrow.
All right, go ahead and resign verbally.
I'm done.
All right, that's good.
think I was just
That was the best
bamboozled.
resignation I've ever heard. All right, so do we have a motion to approve Commissioner Curry for the appointment to the Water Board? I forgot the full name.
So moved.
Second.
Of course.
Motion and
Of
second.
course.
Anybody in the audience like to speak to this nomination?
Help me.
Forrest Curry?
You're tired.
No,
All
I'm
right.
not anymore.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed, motion carries unanimously. And the last thing I just wanted to bring up, talked a lot about progress happening. Man, have you seen the gymnastics center? We talk a lot about the pickleball
Yes.
center, but man, the gymnastics center on Nova is coming to life. And I'll tell you, I get so much joy out of that project. That's I think probably the best project going on. Pickleball's great, and I don't want to choose favorites. It's like your
You have little
children.
girls that are going to.
Well, I was going to say my little granddaughter.
Maybe, but it's serving the community. And I found out today that they had an issue with the billboard sign. Well, the billboard company loved what they were going to do with the money to support people in our community, kids that couldn't afford it with scholarships, and they're stepping up to actually fund a couple scholarships for Holly Hill kids, which is really, really neat. So it's cool to see something like that happen. They're going to have a dance studio there, world-class gymnastics center. They're going to have
Ninja Warrior.
American Ninja Warrior, and man, it's coming along great. Like every project, it's ballooned into a $3 million project, which it wasn't going to be near that, but lo and behold, there it is. So a lot of progress happening in the city of Holly Hill, and
Can I
Commissioner.
say one
Yep.
more thing?
Yep.
Just for the League of Cities, to defend extending the due date. There are 7 nominees. 6 of them are from one city.
Oh.
So if you want to go and rah-rah for one city, we can leave the date where it is. Or we can move the date and hopefully spread the wealth. So that's why we
Which
made
city?
that decision. I'm not telling you.
Curious minds.
We could
All
tell
right.
but he'd have to kill us.
Yeah. All right. Is there any further business? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.